Welcome, everybody. So I thought I would start off just by telling you what HackerOne's mission is. And our mission is to empower the world to build a safer internet. And so a really interesting exercise is to spin this into a question and ask, how safe is the internet today? And the answer that I normally get from most people is not very. Last week, I spoke to the HackerOnies at HackerOne, and I asked them the question, and I got a mixed response. Someone in our finance team had just bought their first house and applied for a mortgage. All of their personal data was submitted through an online portal. And it's quite terrifying to think of, is that information, is it safe? Is anyone else going to be able to access it? We have one of our head of technology alliances, Kayla. She's got 2 young girls. And for her, she's terrified about her kids when they go online. What's going to happen? What's going to happen with their personal data? How are we going to think about privacy? How are we going to think about security? And then the most astute observation, of course, came from our technical engagement manager team, the people who run engagements at HackerOne. And they said, it depends which part you're visiting. And I think this is an important point, actually, because it really is unequal, right? You have certain areas that are super secure, and you have certain areas that are put together with string, right? So what's the problem, then? The obstacles that we face in building this kind of safe internet for us all to work on, I'm going to break into 3 different sections. I think, first of all, we just have exponential technology change at the moment. We have everyone in this room is probably familiar with things like digital transformation, cloud migration. We're using third-party tools like SaaS tools. We're using APIs, right? There's loads and loads of technology that we're moving our legacy business models onto. And at the same time, there's new technologies, new startups and scale-ups that have been founded around Web3, right? Crypto, blockchain, and more recently, large language models, right? It's the AI revolution, which promises to even accelerate faster what we've already seen over the past couple of decades, right? And 2006 was the iPhone, right? It really is changing fast. The second challenge, then, is that CISOs and people in charge of security budgets are really feeling the squeeze at the moment, After COVID, we've had a financial slowdown, and that means that people are being asked to do more with less. And the end result is there's just less resources, there's less headcount, there's less things for you to be able to do with your limited budgets. And of course, the same is not true of the adversaries, right? The same is not true. They're well-funded, they're abundantly resourced. The rise of ransomware means they've got a viable business model, right? They're growing, right? And the ramifications of all of this is it just makes it a super tough place for us all to do our jobs. Makes it super tough. We've got the risk of emerging threats, of attack surfaces. And I think really the problem with this, for me, is that you can see with all these new technologies that there's an incredible economic benefit for us all to be had, all over the world, right? We can all benefit from this technology. We can't do that if it's not safe, right? So we risk the economic benefits that digital technology could give us. So I'm here today to give you the HackerOne point of view, which is very simple, that the most effective way to deal with lots of these risks is to build a safer internet, and that means working with hackers. And you can see some of their smiling faces here. Today, I'm going to deep dive into what that means, what it means practically from the experience that we have here at HackerOne. I'm going to talk about 3 of our different products and services. I'm going to talk about Bug Bounty, right? Flagship product, been doing it for a decade. We're going to talk about how Bug Bounty programs can be used to continuously provide security of your online assets. We're going to talk about 2, penetration testing as a service, PTAS. This is a new spin on an old model. Where we're bringing technology and a SaaS-based approach to a legacy kind of consultancy-led model with pen testing, and putting hackers in the picture. And then number 3, we're going to talk about code review, right? Can we shift hackers into the SDLC? How would that look like? How would it work? And then, of course, it wouldn't be a technology talk in 2023 unless I had a section on artificial intelligence. So we're going to talk about artificial intelligence in the community, so how hackers are using AI. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence in our customers, so how we're being asked to secure AI. And we're going to talk about how HackerOne itself is using AI to make efficiencies and bring benefits to our customer base. My call to action to you all today is that, first of all, I'd like, as I go through this material and as you go in the breakout sessions, I want you to think about how hackers could benefit you. And we've actually got a whole bunch of hackers in the room today. We're going to see them in the panel. We've got a whole bunch of customers who are using hackers. And so I would love for you all to try to use this opportunity to meet a hacker, have a beer, have a cup of tea, and ask them a question about your digital attack surface and what their advice could be. And of course, the rewards that you could benefit from would be to secure your digital products, reduce incidents, reduce your mean time to response from a failure, and fundamentally create digital products that contribute to this safer internet. So this is me, Laurie. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I've been working with HackerOne for 6 years, and you can see some of the programs that I've helped set up in the bottom right-hand corner. I'm based in London. This is real London. The last one was generative AI generated. Just one Big Ben here. I think there's like 3 in this one here. And I joined HackerOne 6 years ago, so I've seen us grow from a small team to a large team. And the primary reason why I joined and why I'm still here is I'm really driven by novelty, right? I like cool bugs. When I was asked to join HackerOne, the first thing I saw was a bug in Slack, and my organization was using Slack. It was an SSRF vulnerability, and it was just really cool, right? I'm driven by novelty. And HackerOne's a company that's full of novel and elusive vulnerabilities. Hackers and also our customers are doing pretty novel things too. And it's a common misconception that bug bounty is a novel idea. I think probably a lot of people in this room think that this is a brand new idea. And it's not. Here is what I can see as one of the first ever bug bounty programs in the world. And it was set up just 2 miles north of here at Piccadilly. This gentleman, Joseph Brammer, 1790, created the safety lock. I took this picture off Christie's, so if anyone wants to buy one, you can pop up to the auction house. They're quite expensive nowadays. He was so sure that his lock was secure that he put a sign on his front window saying, if anyone can pick it, we'll pay you 200-300 guineas. And before you all get your calculators out, that's about £20,000 today, right? So it's about 20K. More modern bug bounty programs start in 1983, the year of the return of the Jedi. And here you can see Hunter and Reddy's VRTX bug bounty program. Pre-internet, this is a newspaper. And what you can see here is they're offering a bug for a bug, a VW Beetle if you can find a vulnerability. If you read the fine print, there's an asterisk down there. They actually say, if you can't get a bug, then we'll give you $1,000. Which interestingly is about 20,000 US dollars today. The first modern kind of bug bounty program was Netscape Navigator, the first internet-based. This was obviously the first commercial web browser. And today, your bank is probably using this. In fact, all of your technology providers today are using bug bounty programs. So if you're using AWS, for instance, if you're using Azure, if you're using GCP as your technology foundation, if you're using open source software, we secure open source software with bug bounty too. And here you can see a modern version of a bug bounty program. This is taken from the HackerOne public directory. So anybody can see this now or after the talk. What I find fascinating about bug bounty is that it's technology agnostic, right? So it works for a lock, works for an operating system, works for a browser, works for Marcus Savings app, right, if anyone's here is using that. But it also works for a blockchain, it also works for an LLM. As new technology comes along, it's a really adaptable model, right? Really adaptable, because humans are adaptable. It also uses a marketplace, right? So it's the concept of a marketplace, which to me speaks to ideas of planners versus improvisers, and we're in the improvisers section here. And we all know that market economies versus planned economies, the market economies are more efficient, right? So it's often a more efficient way to spend money on securing vulnerabilities and discovering them. Another trend that I've noticed is that it's always fast technological evolution that drives adoption of this model. So, if you're still using a Windows server in a basement in your office, then a bug bounty is not going to help you so much. It's when you go online. It's when you launch new services. It's when you transition from a company that was selling cars to a company that has user data in the cloud that can unlock the car based on your fingerprint. That's when it becomes the reason to do this. And until HackerOne came along, it was really hard to do, right? It was really hard to do. Only really the tech giants could afford to do it because they had large teams and they had lots of software engineers that could build these platforms. And you think about it, the problem in a nutshell is how can you safely leverage a network of millions of hackers, right, without knowing them, right? There's a trust problem, right? There's also a communications problem. How do we chat with them in a way that is productive, often with people with different languages? There's a problem with payments. How do I go to my CFO and say I want to send $1,000 to this young gentleman in Jakarta? What are they going to say, right? They go crazy. And then when you get the vulnerability, what do you do with it, right? You need to fix it, you need to remediate it, you need to patch it. And most people are used to this batch process, this waterfall process of the pen test report every year. They're not used to receiving vulnerabilities at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? And that's what we've built. So this is HackerOne Bounty. It's our bug bounty offering. A bug bounty program with HackerOne provides a structured way for ethical hackers and researchers to submit vulnerabilities to your organization in exchange for monetary rewards, right? Bounties, paid in a compliant way. I've got a few of the benefits of bug bounty here on the screen. The first one is the diverse community of ethical hackers. Now you can see we've got 2 million registered accounts here. Probably only about 500,000 of them are active in any year. But the benefits of this large and diverse ethical hacking community is really its scale. And the way I explain this to people new to the model is using things like the Pareto law, the 80-20 law, which is it tends to be 20% of your community will provide 80% of your value, right? Which means the bigger your community, the bigger the value, of course. I was crunching the numbers in preparation for this talk, and I decided to do a bit of an experiment. We normally publish the number of hackers in every country, and guess what? India always wins. America always wins. China always wins, right? Why? Because they're just huge countries with huge populations. So this year I thought I'd spin it on its head and do per capita. So number of hackers that have been paid divided by the population of that country. And ChatGPT was very helpful in this exercise, by the way. They saved me a lot of looking at populations. And what I found is that actually the top country for hacker talent, the top countries, I should say, really, are countries like Estonia, countries like Israel, countries like the Netherlands. Where's Jonathan? Small countries like Singapore. Singapore is number one. And these are countries with great universities. They're countries with fast internet connections. They're also all over the place, and they're not here, right? They're remote, right? And so part of the value of HackerOne is being able to tap into this vast network of security pros, wherever they are. UK is number 9, by the way, before you all ask, which is pretty good. America's like 30 or 40. China's like 70 or 80, I think. And so that's really important because that's obviously what drives results. The second thing that Bug Bounty gives you from a HackerOne perspective is advisory and triage services. We saw earlier the rewards, right? So 200 guineas, $1,000 in 83, $15,000 for Goldman Sachs. Now, how much should you pay, right? How much is a reward worth, right? What should your scope be, right? A lot of people will have everything in scope. Some people will just have 1 or 2 assets in scope, right? There's also questions about technical integrations, about who decides what team it goes to, right? All of these questions need to be answered in order to set this up, and that's why our world-class advisory and triage services, and we have several of our customer success managers, where's Jess in the room here, are doing this every day, right? Thousands of customers, Jess manages probably like 30 or 40 of them, right? Big bug bounty programs. And then once you actually run a program, what do you do about the bugs that you receive, right? You're receiving vulnerability after vulnerability after vulnerability. especially with a public program, you can expect that there'll be some noise, right? Some invalid vulnerabilities. How do you deal with that? And the question, of course, from HackerOne is our world-class triage services, which is a technical team, globally resourced. We have triage analysts in India, in Egypt, in Brazil, who are able to field these vulnerabilities and polish them up so they're ready for your security team to action. And then finally, of course, we have actionable reporting and tracking. This makes Alice very happy when she makes her hacker-powered security report, because it means we can demonstrate how secure you are compared to another customer. How fast are you compared to your industry benchmark? How many vulnerabilities are you receiving per technology, right? So you can see which tech's weak, which tech's strong. This reporting and tracking can be super useful. And there was an NCSC paper that was released just yesterday that talks about how you can make data-driven decisions from a vulnerability disclosure or a bug bounty program. Bug bounty is also evolving. And here's some of the ways that we've been innovating on the platform in order to give you continuous security using this model. One of the issues that we've had over the past 10 years is that you launch a bug bounty program, and it's a little bit like throwing fish into a duck pond. Sorry, bread into a duck pond. Everybody just comes up and eats it, right? And then, then it's all gone, and then they go away. So how do you get continuous engagement, right? How do you get continuous engagement? So Jess and the customer success team have been working on ways to stimulate engagement, doing experiments, which we've now productized into the concept of campaigns. You can see an example of a campaign here. Campaigns are ways to stimulate engagement on your program continuously. In this case, we're selecting 50 researchers on our program, and we're saying rather than getting paid $15K for a critical vulnerability, if you submit a vulnerability in the next month, we'll pay you 3x that, right, for a critical vulnerability. In this way, we can help customers when they have a new product release, when a new 0-day is released. We can help customers when something changes on their side or something changes in the world around them to get people to focus their attention on a particular asset, particular program, particular customer. And later on this year, we're working on spot checks, which is where things like the Move It vulnerability that affected so many British organizations through their payroll systems. We're able to basically say, let's get a couple of hackers, let's give them a little bit of money, and let's get them to check over our attack surface for this particular vulnerability. It's smaller than a pen test. It's not worth it to do a full pen test. It's just a micro test. And this is what we're calling a spot check. We also recognize that there are a lot of customers out there who are not ready for a fully public bug bounty program, right? So the Goldman Sachs example is a fully public bug bounty program. Anyone in this room, in the break perhaps, once you've had some coffee, you could find a vulnerability. Maybe you get paid $15,000. We go upstairs and get some champagne. But most of our customers are not ready for this. In fact, 80% of our customers run private programs. That means it's a private, invitation-only system. And so we've developed an invitation system, which means that people can be invited, hackers can be invited. And the reason that you might do this could be volume, right? It could be that you've only got 4 people in your security team. They can't handle a big volume of bugs. The reason could also be budget, right? You don't actually have loads of money. Maybe you've got just a more limited pool. You need to kind of throttle your spend. And another reason is that you're just your compliance and your regulators won't allow you to just allow anyone to do testing on your public-facing assets. And so we've developed ways that we can do this. We can organize hackers into different cohorts. They could be skills-based. They could be vetted with criminal background checks, ID verified. They could be in a certain country or a certain citizenship for certain customers. And you can see these little blue ticks on a little Ninja Space Raccoon. That means they've been cleared by HackerOne, right? It means that they've gone through this clearing process. And so customers who are not ready or are not able to engage with a broader community, they can still engage with a more limited subset and gain some of the benefits of this model. We've also been working on control. And there's a lot of debates about how people should access assets. And the problem in a nutshell is that most bug bounty hunters use their home internet connection, right? Which means different IP addresses, Virgin Media, BT, you name it. And so for some of our customers, that's a problem because they might have a SOC team that's got loads of alerts. that will go off. It could be a problem because there's WAFs that they would like to disable so that they can let hackers, test the app, not the WAF, right? And so lots of people have been experimenting, including HackerOne, with using things like VPNs and different ways of proxies in order to provide some form of IP whitelisting and control. But it just wasn't working. And I'll give you an example. So let's say you've got a hacker who's invited to 70 different customer programs, right, which is pretty common for us. You give them 70 different VPN configs, right? Well, what are they going to do? They're going to install the first one. They're going to have a look. And they're like, OK, I didn't find anything. Let's close it down, right? Then you're going to do the next one and close it down, do the next one, close it down. You're not getting continuous coverage in this way, right? It's just not working. It's not working for the customer. It's not working for the hacker either. So we've spent this year partnering with our customer, Cloudflare, in order to provide a much more seamless experience where hackers can basically install the Cloudflare VPN agent, which will enable them to see scopes from a known list of IP addresses, which makes our customers happy. And key, they just install it once and it works for all of the customers. And then also it enables not only customers, but also hackers to see activity. So one of our ideas is that customers want to know how active are hackers on my program, but also hackers want to know how active are these programs, right? Can we balance these off, both of these off? So the hackers can look where other people are not looking, and customers can gain assurance that people are looking at their assets too. So this is going to be released next month, Gateway 2. We're already testing out with several large customers. So that's the bounty side. So if you're interested in finding out more about rewards, about scope, around control, then please just go straight ahead after this talk to see Tom Hammersley's talk. He's going to go through everything you need to know about bug bounty. I've been working with Tom for many years. He runs some of the world's biggest bug bounty programs, including the government of Singapore, huge scope, entire nation there. So please go hit there and quiz him on everything that I've said here. Yeah. Great. Let's talk about pen testing then. So pen testing as a service, PTAS. I said it's a new spin on an old model. So we've been running bug bounty programs for a few years, and customers kept on coming up to us. I think actually Sam from over here came up to us and said, we've had a great report. Can we do a pen test with this hacker, right? And we kept on getting asked this question, can we do this, can we do this, can we do this? And when you think about it, it kind of makes sense. What's the point in getting a pen test done if you're just going to put it into the scope of your bug bounty program and find all the stuff you missed, right? So the question is, can we get hackers to use the same workflows, the same vetting, the same technology in order to provide like a traditional, pen test based on the OWASP top 10, based on the various standards that are out there to do testing? So we started to do some discovery work with our customers, and we wanted to find out more about their problems and how this could solve them. They also highlighted on top of the talent, right, there are also problems with scheduling. So sometimes it can take 4 to 6 weeks to get a pen test spun up, and that's because lots of these companies are small and they have limited resources, right, which are not easily shared around. Then when they get a report, they often are in PDF or Excel formats, which are not really easy to get to an engineering team, right? You really need them to be in the engineering team. And when it came to things like retesting, once the report's been delivered, the consultants have gone, and you try and call them and they won't pick up your calls anymore, right? So there was a lack of retesting workflows. And so we thought, can we do better than this? And so we decided to build a penetration testing as a service platform. Here you can see the PTAS screenshot from an individual pen test here. So PTAS uses a SaaS model, so software as a service, to deliver penetration tests. You can see here it includes an overview from scoping, setup, and kickoff, all technology assisted, right? So you're filling in online web forms when you're ready to do a pen test, to scope it, to make sure you get the right number of people on the engagement, and a kickoff call over Zoom, right? So you can get all the details nailed. Then when the testing actually commences, we're providing you with real-time communications, right? So Slack channels, so you can communicate directly with the testers. And we're providing you with an inbox, the same way we do with Bug Bounty, where when reports are fielded to you, they can just go straight into GitHub, Azure DevOps, whatever you're using. So we have the same technical integrations to make everything smoother. We had to look at our community, and we chose the 0.01% of the community who qualified for pen tests. And that means they need experience, they need qualifications like CREST, for example, and they need to go through our vetting process as well. And from that, we're able to spin up, using our liquidity, pen tests very fast. So just to give you an idea, at the moment, for every pen test that we publish, we have 40 applicants, right? So if number one can't do it, we go to number two. We've got lots of people who want to do pen testing. They're very hungry chicks. And finally, this is all in an online platform. So you're able to do all the reporting and all the other jazz that you do with Bug Bounty in a more sensible way. So 54% of our customers get a bug in their first 3 days of testing, go straight to them, no waiting for the final report. And 19% of all the bugs that we've got reported so far are high and critical vulnerabilities. So we're very proud of those statistics. And this year, we've been working hard on making sure this is ready for large enterprises on the one side, who have large pen testing requirements, often thousands and thousands of hours. But at the same time, making sure we're still suitable for the startups and scale-ups who perhaps only need one pen test a year, but they need it now, right? They've got a customer they want to sell to, they need a report, they need it next week, right? And so that means that we've created new dashboards, we've created new consumption tracking, we've introduced new tiers, we've produced a new scoping workflow that enables you to do scoping completely with a technology solution. We've worked on improved platform navigation. The designers told me to say that. And of course, we have things like the usual reports and retesting and chats that you'd expect in a PTAS solution. We've also increased pen test coverage. So obviously, there's loads of a bug bounty program. You can test anything, locks, operating systems, all the way to web apps and blockchains. With pen tests, it's a little bit different. You need methodology, you need scoping, you need to make sure you get the coverage right. And so this year, we've extended our scope coverage to include, and sorry, this slide's not working. This is going to test my knowledge now. Web applications, code security audit, attack surface recon, internal network test, and we're launching thick client applications next month. One of the interesting ideas here is that an attack surface recon report is essentially where you get like a couple of hackers and you give them a company and you say, what can you find online, right? What can you find? And the idea is, what websites, what APIs, what mobile applications, what's the perimeter, the digital perimeter from a hacker's point of view, right? And then on the other side, we have code security audit, which is taking the very microscopic view, right? So we've got the telescope and the microscope. And here we're saying, well, okay, let's have a look at this code. Can we have a look to see if there are any vulnerabilities in there? And then, of course, in the middle, we have our classic web, mobile, infrastructure penetration tests. So the next question we asked ourselves was, okay, we've gone from bug bounty, we've built a PTAS solution. How far can we shift this model left? And the question is, can we shift hackers into the very place where vulnerabilities are introduced in the first place, which is the software development lifecycle? So here you can see what happens before a vulnerability is introduced into production, right? So you have your source code management solution. Often it's Azure DevOps, it's Git, it's whatever you're using to manage your source code repo. And it's only at the very end that we're really doing a penetration test or putting it in the scope of a bug bounty. And so the question for us is, how far can we shift hackers left? If we can do it for pen testing, can we do it for code review too? And so this year, we launched a new service, Code Security Audit, where essentially we can add a HackerOne bot into your source code management solution, which can basically facilitate the sharing of source code with vetted, trusted hackers within our community. We've got about 600 of them. Asim's one of them here from Seattle, where they can give you a human-led code review, right? So a lot of you are probably doing SAST at the moment, right? Static analysis. This is a human-powered SAST, right? Where it's technology-assisted humans looking at your code, right? And we can do this in two ways. We can do it in a lump sum as an assessment, look at a whole application, for example. We can do it continuously. So we're experienced with both models. So you've got a pull request, like, can I have someone look at it? Yes, right? The security teams tend to be one for every 100 developers, right? So here we're trying to balance the scales, right? We're trying to make your security team hundreds, maybe even thousands in the future, rather than this one person supporting 100 developers. And this is a real example of, of one of our code review findings. Again, delivered straight to developers. Yes, we can generate you a PDF report, but this is really what people want, right? They want to have it in their IDE, in their ticket tracking system. So if you're interested in finding out more about PTAS and code security audit, my colleague Chris Campbell, where's Chris, is going to be giving a talk on the 3 stages of vulnerability discovery, not this room here, but the room next door. So if you're interested in PTAS, code review, bug bounty, how it all fits together, please go and see his talk and grill him. Great. So AI. So no respectable talk on cybersecurity would be complete without a bit on AI. So I'm going to talk about 3 ways that we're thinking about it here. The first one is like what's going on in the community, right? So we get a vulnerability report every 2 minutes, right? So it's like the heartbeat of the internet. Every 2 minutes we get a bug report. And so with the introduction of large language models and this kind of rapid kind of acceleration of that technology, we're seeing it through our network, right? We're seeing it through these vulnerability reports. I'm also going to talk about how we can secure AI, right? So what are some ideas about how we can secure these new models? What are the threats? And then finally, I'm going to talk about how HackerOne is using AI from a platform perspective, right? Half our employees are engineers, right? We build software. And this was actually AI-generated image of the founding story of the HackerOne logo by Michiel and Jobert in Groningen in northern Netherlands, by the way, combined with another futuristic London. Cool, so hackers. So I've got the good and the bad. Let's start with the good. So on the left-hand side, you can see a vulnerability report that was submitted through the assistance of ChatGPT. Really simple. You get given a target. The hacker says, OK, what should I look for? ChatGPT says, here's 4 things to look for. OK, let's go for number 1. You keep on going down this question loop, question loop, question loop, and eventually it's producing exploit code, right? So here's what an example of code. To take advantage of an unbound loop to produce a denial of service condition in a gaming application in this case. So in this case, you've basically got a hacker working with an AI engine in order to help them prioritize and direct their security research to the point where they have a vulnerability they can get paid for. Now, the interesting story here is that they say that this vulnerability was a low-severity vulnerability. And so it's a real shame that we haven't got the hacker here today, but one of our French hackers was given this vulnerability, and he turned it into a high. So it still takes the human on the icing on the cake is the human on the top, right? The second vulnerability report we have here is an AI hallucination, right? This is the bad. We received this vulnerability report last week, and when you look at it, it looks perfect. It's got a great report title. It has a format that looks exactly the same as a legitimate vulnerability report. It even has a CVE and a code sample, right? Now, the problem is, not a real CVE, and the code doesn't compile. This entire vulnerability report has been hallucinated by Bard. And so we've received a vulnerability report, and you can see at the bottom here, you've been a victim of a hallucination. This is not a vulnerability report. So one of the questions that we're kind of dealing with at the moment is, well, how do we detect this, right? Because, detecting scanner output is easy. You just search for Qualys or Veracode, whatever you're using. This is more difficult to detect, right? So this is one of the problems that we're facing. Yeah. Cool. If you're interested in finding out more about generative AI and how it's being used in hacking, the Hacker Panel is going to feature this as a primary topic. So stick around for later on. We'll have a few hackers up here to chat about it. Let's talk about testing AI then. So Mustafa Suleyman, he's the founder of DeepMind up in King's Cross and Inflection AI in Palo Alto now. He's released a new book called The Coming Wave. And this is what he has to say about securing AI engines. He's introducing the concept of AI red teaming, proactively hunting for flaws in AI models or software systems. It's a really interesting problem because the type of injections that you have in a web application or a mobile are quite different to what you'd have in an AI engine. We are running several red teaming challenges right now with our customers in Silicon Valley. And the kind of things they're interested in, and not necessarily, they're interested in code injection, they're interested in the classic vulnerabilities, but what they're also interested in is, can you make this model do something that's like forbidden, right? Can you make it, generate a recipe for a bomb? Can you make it say something racist? Can you make it generate adult content, right? So it's a totally different way of thinking about it. And so we're still trying to work with this. Like, how do we incentivize people? How do we accept a report? You know, going back to the Brammer example, what's the equivalent of unlocking the lock for an AI engine? What's going to get you 200 guineas, right? And these are questions that we're actually working through in practice right now. So if any of you are doing some AI experiments, please talk to us, and we'd love to share some more knowledge of what we're learning there. And then finally, HackerOne. So one of the problems with AI, or one of the solutions to the problems of AI, is more AI, right? And that's what we're doing here. And so I'm delighted to be able to announce today the HackerOne Copilot, which is available in beta right now. I can give you a demo after the talk if you're interested. HackerOne Copilot is a LLM that's built into the HackerOne platform. That means that you can, when you receive a vulnerability that you don't know about, maybe you're a grad, right? Maybe you're a new employee, or maybe it's a new vulnerability, right? Maybe it's one of these James Kettle specials that no one's ever seen before, novel and elusive vulnerability. You can ask the engine, what the hell is this, right? Help me out here, right? Can you give me a summary? Can you tell me what's missing? Can you tell me what to do, right? And so the first use case we've been using AI for has been in triage, right? So when we get a vulnerability report, how do we triage it? How do we generate a summary for customers? And how can we do that in an efficient way? Helps us keep our costs down, helps us keep value for money for you. The second use case that we found for this Copilot during our limited trial is we can actually generate nuclei templates. We can actually generate custom DAST rules using this LLM. In this example, someone submitted an XSS vulnerability, quite a boring vulnerability, but boring but important. And we've asked the Copilot to generate a custom DAST rule to do regression testing or to build our own custom DAST engine. What I find really interesting about this, I worked for a scanning company for many years, and what I find interesting is that most DAST scanners are built for any application, which in practice means they're made for none, right? Because they miss a load of stuff. They're really hard to do. And for a long time, we've had customers like Uber who've been taking the bug bounty reports and they've been instrumentalizing them into either SAST or DAST tooling in order to build up a custom library of rules to check their code base against as they're coding that are custom to their applications, custom to their programming languages, custom to their developers, right? And it's not really been adopted by anyone else. And the question I've always had is why, right? Why has this not been adopted more widely? Because I think it's a great idea. And it turns out that the answer is probably just because it's pretty difficult to do, right? And so the invention of things like HackerOne Copilot make it so that security teams who don't have like 100 people, maybe they've only got 5 people, they can do this, right? Makes you able to do things that you weren't able to do before. And then finally, the purpose of getting a vulnerability report is to fix it. So why don't we ask the Copilot how to fix a vulnerability? And we've had some mixed success here. If there's enough details in the report, programming languages, things like XSS, things like SQL injection, common vulnerabilities, you can say to it, well, how would I fix this? Here's some code, right? And the great thing about this, of course, is that because this LLM is built within the HackerOne system, it's already passed all of your security checks. The data doesn't go outside, so you can ask it as many stupid questions as you like, and nobody will know any the wiser. So you can start to work more effectively when you're fixing vulnerabilities. Great, so that's the 3 sides of AI that I was going to present. All of this, of course, is built into our attack resistance management platform, HackerOne. I've talked about bounty, I've talked about code review, and I've talked about pen testing as a service. You can see here the full broad suite of offerings. And that's why we work with so many different customers all over the world, from business to consumer brands, business to business, North America, Asia, and Asia Pacific. And it's why we've paid nearly 300 million in bounties out so far. So I'm going to wrap up now before a brief Q&A. Just to reiterate the HackerOne point of view, which is that we live in a dangerous place. We think hackers have a key, pivotal place to play in this world. I've introduced you to 3 different ways you can work with them: bug bounty, PTAS, and code review. And my call to action for you all today is to find a hacker, ask them a question, or a HackerOne, right? Ask us a question too, and think about how this kind of system could fit into your world, and together build a safer internet. That's it. Thank you.